Hello, I'm Jess, and today we're going to make a versatile, customizable accessory that's perfect for all of your cosplay and costume events. Welcome to the SallieTomato YouTube channel. If you like sewing beginner-friendly, useful projects, hit that notification and subscribe button so you don't miss out on all of our latest projects. I am so excited to share this pattern with you. Here at SallieTomato, we absolutely love cosplay and costumes, and this is our first official cosplay focused pattern. So whether you're attending conventions or creating an accessory for a character icon, or perhaps you're simply looking to add a functional accessory to your cosplay costume, then this project serves as the perfect canvas for your vision. This pattern has an adaptable style, and we've broken down the steps for an easy construction. It can truly be customized to fit any look, from fantasy to sci-fi to historical characters. This design includes a custom fit adjustable belt, a cinch pouch for dice or small essentials, and a roomy cell phone pouch for your wallet and phone. Optional bold rivet embellishments add style and edge to this practical standout accessory. During this tutorial, you will learn how to make the belt, install a belt buckle and bag closure, create a cinch pouch, create a crossbody strap, and install rivet details. The finished size of the belt measures 1¼ inches wide, or as wide as your hardware choice, by your desired length. This pattern was inspired by our team's excitement for cosplay, along with our passion for creating beginner-friendly designs that can be customized for a wide range of cosplay scenarios. I encourage you to use our retailer locator on our website to find a SallieTomato retailer near you. Before we get started, be sure to grab a pattern, see the description below this video, and follow the link to access the pattern information. All of the supplies you need are listed on the back of the pattern. The cosplay accessories belt pattern is suitable for non-woven fabrics such as faux leather, cork fabric, or micro suede. So once you decide on your fabrics and hardware, gather all of the supplies that you need and follow along with the cutting instructions included with the pattern. After your prep is complete, let's dive into the tutorial. The first project we will get started on is the belt. The pattern has broken apart each of the 3 projects so you can follow along with the project that you want to make. I've chosen to use SallieTomato Legacy Faux Leather to create the belt for this project. As you cut out your pieces needed, it may be helpful to write the name or mark the piece letter on the back of each piece so that way your pieces are labeled and it's easy to grab what you need during the project construction. The belt hardware that I'm using measures 1¼ inch wide for the inner diameter measurement. If you are using narrower or wider hardware, you'll need to adjust the width of your belt pieces to match the inner dimension of the hardware. The pattern will explain how to join multiple pieces of fabric to meet the desired length of your belt. So go ahead and cut multiple pieces to meet your desired length. You'll also need some interfacing. The interfacing will add stability and prevent your belt from stretching. I'm using hair canvas, which is a fusible woven interfacing. You could use any woven mid-weight interfacing for this project. This pattern includes the option to add bold rivet embellishments. I chose the size small rivets, which have a 6mm long post. The pattern also includes the option for a metal corner, which can be used to embellish the tail end of your strap. The first step is to fuse the interfacing to the coordinating pieces. Center and fuse the interfacing to the wrong side of each main fabric piece B, following along with the manufacturer's instructions. If you're using multiple pieces of interfacing, position and fuse the first piece, then overlap the next piece by 1/4 inch and fuse in place. As you can see, I've already went ahead and completed this step. Next, join the belt pieces. Skip ahead to the next section of instructions if you did not need to cut multiple pieces to meet your desired length. Join 2 main fabric pieces B by placing the short ends right sides together, perpendicular to each other. You'll want the ends to overlap a little bit. An 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch of overlap is ideal. Then sew a diagonal seam from corner to corner. I'm using a 2.5 millimeter stitch length for piecing. Then take your scissors and trim the seam allowance to measure 1/4 inch wide. Finger press the seam open and top stitch an 1/8 inch from each side of the seam. I'm using a 3 millimeter stitch length for top stitching. You'll also want to trim the excess seam allowance so it is even with the length side edges. Then you'll repeat the same steps to join any remaining pieces to make a total of 2 belt pieces, measuring your desired length plus 12 inches. Next, we'll attach the strap. With wrong sides together, fold the main fabric strap in half lengthwise. Use sewing clips to hold the fabric together. I switched out my presser foot to a non-stick foot, otherwise known as a Teflon foot, which will help sew smoothly over the faux leather. I highly recommend using this type of foot if you're using a fabric that might be tacky or have a textured surface. Then top stitch an 1/8 inch from the long edges. On the wrong side of one belt piece, refer to the pattern to measure and mark a vertical line in from one short end. I've already went ahead and marked my line according to the pattern. Next, overlap the ends of the strap about 3/4 inch to form an oval. Position the oval inside the marked line on the wrong side of the belt piece and top stitch the overlapped ends in place between the long edges. Try your best to do the top stitching and fold the fabric out of the way as needed. Next, assemble the belt. Place the 2 belt pieces wrong sides together, feeding the free end through the strap and align the edges. Use sewing clips to hold the layers together. You could also use basting spray, basting tape, or fabric glue in addition to the clips to prevent the fabric layers from shifting. Also, if you joined your belt pieces, try not to overlap the joins. So perhaps rotate one of your belt pieces so that way it disperses some of the bulk. I've already went ahead and marked the next step. Referring to the pattern, on the end of the belt with the strap, mark in from the short end according to the pattern, and also mark in from each side edge to create a U shape. If you're following along with the pattern, you can cut away the U shape now, or you could wait until after the next step, once the top stitching is done, if you rather cut away the U shape after sewing. You'll want to make sure that the U shape measures according to the pattern, but please note that if you are making a different belt width, you'll need to adjust your measurements so the U-shape cutout will still measure according to the pattern. The two side areas will be called the arms going forward, just for reference. You'll want to top stitch an 1/8 inch around each arm, starting and stopping according to the pattern. You can also use a stiletto to help guide the fabric as you sew. Next, with right sides up, wrap the arms over the belt buckle pin bar with the cutout against the pin. Fold the arms to the underside and use a sewing clip to hold the layers in place. Then top stitch across the belt where the previous top stitching ended, making sure to catch the arm ends in top stitching. After top stitching, you can install optional rivets for reinforcement and detail through the center of each arm. Just make sure that you do not install a rivet through the top stitching, which would break the seam. You can visit our YouTube channel for a tutorial on how to install rivets. And now that the buckle is attached, test the belt around your waist for the desired length and trim the belt end without the hardware if needed. If you'd like to shape the end of the belt without the hardware, we've included 2 template shapes in the pattern. You can choose between a curved end or a pointed end. If you decide to shape the end of your belt, you'll want to position the template at the end of the belt without the hardware and trace the outer edges of the template, then cut along the marked line to shape the tail end. Next, top stitch an 1/8 inch from each length side of the belt, starting and stopping at the previous top stitching and making sure to top stitch around the tail end. Next, we'll mark the placement of several holes, which will allow the pin of the belt to fit through the holes and for the strap to be adjustable. I've already went ahead and marked 6 holes. You can mark as many as desired. Then you'll need to use a rotary punch or fabric punch to cut the holes centered down the length of the belt. The holes should be large enough for the pin of the buckle to fit through, but small enough that the pin isn't loose. Next, add optional edge paint. To add a sealed professional finish to the outer edges of your project, visit our blog for a step-by-step tutorial and video on how to apply gum tragacanth and edge coat paint with a roller pen. We've added a link below to the tutorial. And finally, you can add optional hardware. You can skip this section if you do not wish to add rivets or metal corners to your belt. However, I highly recommend doing so. You can visit our YouTube channel for specific hardware tutorials. You want to start by marking the placement for each of the rivets that you'd like to install and install according to the manufacturer's instructions. And if you decided to create a pointed tail end for your belt, you can add an optional metal corner over the tail end. Simply add hot glue or permanent glue to the inside of the channel, slide it over the tail end, and clamp it into place. You'll want to cover the hardware with a scrap of fabric, batting, or foam before squeeze clamping the hardware to your project with a pair of pliers. So that way the pliers do not scratch your hardware. And just like that, your belt is finished. Let's get started on making a cinch pouch. The main fabric for this project will be used to create the strap, and the contrast fabric will be the exterior of the pouch. Included with the instructions are optional rivets. You'll need line 20 snaps for the closure. You'll also need a piece of leather lace and a drawstring cord adjuster. Let's get started by attaching the strap. With wrong sides together, fold one end of main fabric piece C strap to the underside according to the pattern and use sewing clips to hold in place. Then, with wrong sides together, fold the opposite end of the strap to the underside according to the pattern and clip in place. With right sides up, center the strap over contrast piece D for the exterior. You'll notice I've already went ahead and punched all of the holes for the leather lace drawstring, so ignore all of those hole punches for now. Align the exterior with the raw folded edges of the strap. You can use basting spray or basting tape to help hold the strap in place. I'm going to add a few sewing clips at each of the corners. Referring to the pattern, unfold the end and top stitch an 1/8 inch from each length side of the strap, starting on the exterior at the short strap extension, and make sure to backstitch. After sewing, refold the end of the strap. Next, included with your pattern was a cinch pouch template. You'll want to position the template at the short folded end of the strap and trace the outer edges of the template. Cut along the marked lines to shape the strap end. Next, top stitch an 1/8 inch from the outer edges of the shaped strap end, starting and stopping at the previous top stitching. Then you'll also want to top stitch across the opposite folded strap end 1/8 inch from the raw short edge. Next, we'll install the snap fasteners. Before we install the snap, it's important to understand the parts of a line snap. The parts include a socket, a cap, a stud, and an eyelet. The socket will be paired with the cap, and the stud will go with the eyelet. For this particular project, the snap fastener will be the closure for our cinch pouch. We'll need to install the socket and cap half of the snap fastener centered in from the pointed end according to our pattern. Then we'll install the stud and eyelet half of the snap centered from the folded end of our pattern. We'll need to make sure that the cap is on the exterior side and the socket will be on the interior end. Then on the opposite side of our project, we'll make sure that the stud is on the interior side and the eyelet is on the exterior side. Let's start by using a rotary punch to punch one hole where the cap will be installed and punch another hole where the stud will be installed. Again, refer to your pattern for the exact measurements. I'm using the smallest setting on my rotary punch. Before setting each of the snap pieces, I like to position them to test to make sure that they are positioned correctly. So I'm going to start with the cap and the socket. positioning the cap on the exterior side and the socket on the interior side. You'll want to make sure that the concave side is facing outward. I'm going to use a sewing clip to help hold the pieces in place temporarily while I test. At the opposite end of our project, we'll make sure that the stud is on the interior side and the eyelet is on the exterior side. Then it's always important to double check before we set each of the snap fastener pieces. The socket should fit into the stud, so just double check that they're positioned correctly. Once you feel confident in positioning each of your snap pieces, we can use our snap setter and anvil to secure each of the pieces of hardware in place. We'll start at the cap end, place the cap against the anvil and the setter against the socket. Use a hammer to secure the hardware in place by tapping the center. I usually like to set my snaps on a sturdy table or even on the floor, so that way I have a sturdy work surface to set my snap. Next, place the eyelet on the flat surface of the anvil and the setter on the center of the stud. Use your hammer to secure the hardware in place by tapping the setter. Again, you can check that the hardware is set properly. I assure you that once you start working with snap fasteners more, you will get a lot more comfortable with the installation steps, and this tutorial will always be here for you for reference. Next, we'll attach the drawstring cord. I've already went ahead and transferred the placement marks from the pattern piece included in my pattern to the wrong side of the exterior. I used my rotary punch, or you could use a fabric punch, to cut 1/8 inch diameter holes at each of the placement marks. Use an upholstery needle to help thread and weave the drawstring cord through each hole as shown in the pattern. Otherwise, you can use your hands and a stiletto to help poke the leather lace or cord through each of the holes. You'll want to feed each end of the drawstring cord through the cord adjuster hardware and tie a knot at each end of the drawstring cord to prevent the ends from being removed from the hardware. And finally, if you'd like to add any other additional embellishments using rivets, you could certainly install rivets along each of the sides of the straps or at the belt loop end of the strap for additional reinforcement. Again, we've added a link in the video description below for a tutorial on installing rivets. I think this project turned out so cute. This is a great scrap buster and fun little accessory. Next, add the optional edge paint. Similar to the belt, you can add a sealed professional finish to the outer edges of your pouch. Visit our blog for a step-by-step video tutorial on how to apply gum triagacanth and edge coat paint with a roller pen. We've added a link in the description to the tutorial below. Congrats on finishing your cinch pouch! Let's get started on making a phone pouch. For the phone pouch project, you'll need to choose a main fabric and interfacing. Like I mentioned earlier, since this pattern has several pieces, it may be helpful to note the name or the piece letter on the wrong side of each of the pieces to help when assembling the project. You'll need to select a piece of hardware for the closure. You can choose between a turn lock, a flip lock, or a magnetic snap. For my project, I chose to use a classic turn lock. This pattern includes the option to add rivets for bold embellishment along the sides of the phone pouch. And if you'd like to add an optional crossbody strap, you'll need a set of mini decorative strap connectors. These are very simple to install with screws. And for the optional strap, you'll need a 47-inch long chain strap. First, fuse the interfacing to the coordinating pieces. To add stability and prevent your fabrics from stretching with use, you'll want to center and fuse the interfacing pieces J and K to the wrong side of each coordinating main fabric piece. I've already went ahead and completed this step. You'll want to follow the manufacturer's instructions for fusing depending on the type of interfacing that you chose. Next, attach the closure. Have your exterior piece E facing right side up and install either the flip or turn half of a bag lock closure or one half of your magnetic snap centered in from the right side edge according to the pattern. Follow along with your hardware instructions for steps to attach your hardware. We do have step-by-step tutorials for each of these different types of hardware on our YouTube channel linked below. If you're using a magnetic snap closure, you'll want to position your interior piece F right side up and install the remaining half of the magnetic snap centered in from the left short edge according to the pattern. Make sure that the right side of the hardware and the fabric are facing up while installing the snap. Next, prepare and attach the belt loop. At the sewing machine, top stitch an 1/8 inch from the long edges of the belt loop piece I. I have a Teflon foot attached to my machine to help sew smoothly over the fabric. With right sides up, center one short edge of the belt loop in from the left short edge of the exterior according to the pattern. I like to use washi tape to help hold this piece in place. You will not want to use pins on faux leather. Otherwise, if you have some magnets or basting tape, you can use either of those notions to help hold this piece in place. Once temporarily secured, top stitch an 1/8 inch from each short edge to attach the belt loop in place. Make sure to back stitch at the beginning and end of each seam. Next, secure the interior. With wrong sides together, center the interior over the exterior using basting spray, sew tight magnets, or large sewing clips to hold the layers together. To sew with 3/4 of an inch seam allowance, you'll want to make sure that your needle is in the center position, and you can follow along with either the guide on your needle plate, or you can use your ruler to measure and place a piece of washi tape as a seam guide on your machine, which will help you maintain an even seam allowance all the way around the outer edges of your pouch. Then top stitch 3/8 inch from the outer edges of the exterior to secure the interior in place. Now is the time to install the optional rivets. I recommend size small, which has a 6mm post. The measurements are included in the pattern to install the rivets along each of the long edges of the exterior of the pouch. We've added a link in the description below for a tutorial on how to install rivets. Next, with wrong sides together, center one interior side over each exterior side and use basting spray, sewing clips, or magnets to hold each of the pieces in place. Then top stitch an 1/8 inch from the outer edges of the interior to secure in place. And repeat for the remaining side pieces. Next, we'll assemble the bag. If you decided to use a bag lock, position the exterior and the remaining half of the lock right side up and install the lock half centered in from the left short edge of the exterior according to the pattern. If you're using a magnetic snap closure, move on to the next step of the instructions. Next, with wrong sides together, align a long edge of each exterior side along one long edge of the exterior, keeping the short end even with the right short edge. Use sewing clips to hold the layers together. Then top stitch an 1/8 inch from the aligned long edge of each exterior side, stopping an 1/8 inch from the left short edge of each piece. Next, mark in from the left short edge of the exterior according to the pattern. I've already gone ahead and completed this step. After you finish marking, with wrong sides together, fold the exterior to align the top short edges of the exterior sides with each of the marks. Make sure to keep the long edges of the sides even with the exterior. Use sewing clips to hold the layers together, then top stitch an 1/8 inch from the aligned long edge of each exterior side, stopping an 1/8 inch from the left short edge of each piece. Using a zipper foot or very narrow foot to sew each of the side seams is critical for keeping an even seam allowance and making sure to stay out of the way from each of the rivets. It's also very important the top short edges remain even with each of the marks to prevent the bag from looking crooked after sewing. Next, with wrong sides together, align the bottom short edges of the exterior sides with the exterior raw edge. Then top stitch an 1/8 inch from the aligned edges, starting and stopping at the previous top stitching. Next, add the optional edge paint. Just as before mentioned in the two previous projects, to add a sealed professional finish to the outer edges of your pouch, you can visit our blog for a step-by-step tutorial on how to edge coat and seal the raw edges of your finished pouch. Next, add the optional hardware. If you do not wish to add metal strap connectors with a strap chain or metal corners to your phone pouch, then you can skip this section of instructions and your bag is complete. However, I highly recommend trying this fun hardware. It only takes a few extra steps to install. Plus, we have step-by-step video tutorials for each of the hardware pieces on our YouTube channel. The first optional hardware include the mini strap connectors. You'll want to install one mini decorative strap connector centered near the top edge of each exterior side according to the manufacturer's instructions. Then you can attach the strap chain by clipping one hook to each D-ring of the connectors. If you'd like to install the optional metal corners, install one metal corner over each flap corner of the phone pouch. The metal corner hardware looks edgy and fun on the end of the belt. It makes a great addition to the phone pouch as well. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial, and if you had sewn along with me, I hope you are excited about your new accessories belt. If you have any other questions or suggestions, please add them in the comments below and we will be there to help. We would absolutely love to see your finished project. Please share and show off your photos using the hashtag SallieTomato and DIY cosplay belt on social media so we can see it. And remember, if you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future project tutorials. Also, I encourage you to check out our pattern line for more inspiring projects. If you have any suggestions for cosplay designs that you would like to see, I would love to know in the comments below as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a creative day.